Today we're going to dive into one of Hammer Horror's most fantastic and I think underrated supernatural thrillers, the 1968 classic The Devil Rides Out. While Hammer Horror is best known for vampires, werewolves and those gothic castles, this film takes a different path. It's one paved with ritual magic, cults and psychological terror. So let's explore why this movie still stands above the crowd over 50 years later. So let's explore the background. Well, this movie was directed by Hammer veteran Terence Fisher and based on Dennis Wheatley's novel. The Devil Rides Out aims much higher than your average late 60s horror. It's bold, it's serious, and it treats the occult with a strange level of respect that what I think was really unusual for the time. And obviously one of the biggest draws, well, it's the legendary Christopher Lee. But there's a real twist in this movie. For once, he's not actually playing the monster. Instead, he's the hero. The film follows our hero Richelieu as he tries to rescue a young friend who's fallen under the influence of a satanic cult. Their leader, the chilling and softly spoken Morcata, he's one of the most quietly intimidating villains in Hammer Horror's entire catalogue, and I think he's played quite brilliantly by the James Bond villain Charles Gray. So what unfolds in this film is a race against time, and it's filled with arcane ceremonies, hypnotic manipulation and supernatural confrontations. And it's all delivered with a straight face and a surprising sense of urgency.
Chris, do you believe in evil? That's an idea. Do you believe in the power of darkness? That's a superstition. Now there you are wrong. The power of darkness is more than just a superstition. It is a living force which can be tapped at any given moment of the night. Why, on one night of 1 year, should these people live in mortal fear?
To me, I think Christopher Lee gives one of his best non-Dracula performances here. He carries the film with pure gravitas, confidence, knowledge, and he's genuinely commanding. You absolutely believe him and believe in him. This is Lee to me at his best. But you could also say the real steam-sealer is Charles Gray. His performance as the evil Morcata is cool, calm and utterly unnerving. He doesn't need to shout or snarl. His menace comes from a quiet certainty that he has powers beyond anyone else's understanding. The director Thomas Fisher approaches the subject matter with real refreshing seriousness. There's no camp here that we're kind of used to. There's no winking at the audience. It's not that kind of movie. Instead, he treats the occult magic with almost academic precision. To me, I think the film's standout sequence is when all the heroes sit inside a protective chalk circle where demonic forces assault them. I think this has been done over and over again in movies, but this is one of the earliest examples of that kind of scene. I think the special effects are obviously dated, but I think there's real creativity here, and the tension clearly makes up for what lacks in special effects. The cinematography, music and set design all work really well together to create such a great atmosphere. This is Hammer doing something generally ambitious. So let's look at the good stuff. Well, I think it's got a tight, intelligent script and it's really authentic and it feels real to me. You've got strong performances from the two leads, Lee and Gray, at their absolute best. The atmosphere is dripping with tension. You're generally invested in these characters. And the story feels much more like a supernatural thriller than a standard horror. But there is stuff that doesn't work. Now, as I've mentioned, some of the special effects have really aged noticeably, and we're talking the spider here. A couple of the performances on offer are quite stiff by modern performances, and they just can't compete with those two leads, and that's obvious. There are elements in the plot as well where they kind of rely on lots of magical woo-woo nonsense that isn't explained at all, and you just have to go with it. But you could say some of these flaws are actually part of the movie's charm. In the end, The Devil Rides Out, to me, stands out as one of Hammer's most intriguing and accomplished films. It combines cult mystery with fast pacing, really strong action, and a kind of bold seriousness that sets it apart from this studio's other work, which most of the time is quite trashy. That's not always a bad thing. So if you are a fan of vintage horror, or you want to see Christopher Lee at his heroic best, this is worth your time. It would be several years before The Devil Rides Out was finally acknowledged as a true Hammer classic. When it first hit cinemas in 1968, it wasn't treated with the same reverence we give it today. But thanks to frequent television syndications throughout the 70s, the film slowly built a reputation. One late night broadcast at a time, as younger audiences started to discover it, love it, and then critics ultimately reassessed it. And as fans revisited it, its status grew over time, and it has become clear The Devil Rides Out wasn't just another Hammer production, it was a turning point, an absolute classic. Now, what makes this film so important is the fact that it arrived at a moment when horror was changing. Gothic monsters and vampires and mummies had dominated for years, but audiences were beginning to crave something different, something that felt more connected to their anxieties of the modern world, and The Devil Rides Out delivered exactly that. While earlier films did touch on occult themes, I think this movie was absolutely bold and groundbreaking for its time, because it treated Satanism and supernaturalism with complete seriousness. Instead of black magic as shock value, it kind of looked at it as a real threat at the time. Now, over time, these kind of movies grew and grew and grew, all leading to The Exorcist in 1973, which we all know is one of the pinnacles of horror. Looking back, this film is wonderful. It didn't have the budget, the effects, or the input. Now, looking back, this film is awesome. Yes, it didn't have the budget, the effects, or frankly the mainstream impact that some of the American movies that followed, but it kind of created a bridge between then and what was to come. I absolutely love it, and even Christopher Lee said it's one of his best films, and who can argue with him? Anyway, that's enough from me. Thanks very much for watching. Don't be afraid to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all on the next one. Take care.